moment in my life was just pretty shit. Because all I could think about was we just fucking lost to Tim Sherwood at home. So that was my story.
I'll give him credit. He really didn't do a lot of his jumping up and down that he normally does. He was pretty
restrained. It's that way.
Well, granted, we weren't there, so all we saw was what the camera showed, and he was very calm. He wasn't wearing a gilet. I'll give him credit for that, providing that's what he did. I know he had a big shit-eating grin. Smile on his face.
Were there any songs where the supporters winding him up at all? Or I haven't read.
We couldn't hear that down in the pub. All we could hear was the stunned silence of our lot. It was disappointing. We had a decent turnout. I mean, everyone kind of came in dead on 9 o'clock. We actually had a supporter from Atlanta Spurs join us, which was kind of nice. And I felt disappointed that we let him down by us putting on that turgid display, and it was very disappointing. But hey, we gave TJ at Staggering Irishman a new Dallas Spurs scarf to put up, so we have now scarfed our 3rd pub in the world.
More to come too.
Well, 4 if you count the Rover, but I'm sure that's in the bin somewhere.
Yeah, and to continue on the series of unfortunate events theme we've got kind of going on for this week, this just in from Merseyside, Aaron Lennon scored again. What do you think about that?
Much like the new manager gloss, it's the new team gloss. There's great. I think it's wonderful. Sell him. I mean, but I hope he continues to
it's wonderful. Sell him. I just said he scored more goals in the league than Soldado.
Look, you shipped him out. If that doesn't say what the club thinks of him, then it's just.
Again, I think that's a product of the locker room row. It's him, it's Addy, it's Kabul. Everybody knows who the players are in that thing, and they're gone. They're not going to be here.
He has everything to play for. He has everything to play for, so that he can be sold, get big wages. And I just think that if he came back here or he signs a deal for Everton, I really have to do. We've seen enough of Aaron Lennon. I think he's a very fast player. I think he's a good player. But I think that if we're able to sell him for 7 to 10 million or 6 to 10 million, there's a good player to be found. And I think Pochettino's made it.
I'm going to change it up a little bit. This was not on the cards, but I'm going to throw it out there. Are we really that stupid that we have to play with 2 defensive midfielders instead of 1, and putting 2 crafty midfielders in front of that person? Because the criticism of Mason and Bentaleb is they're both very similar. They're the defensive midfielders. It's almost like we're playing 6 at the back and 5 at the front, and then there's kind of nothing going on in the middle.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, I think
when you strip it down to the basics, that's effectively what we're doing. And I'm old school, so I think there should just be one person. There should be one person anchoring the back 4, and then you've got 2 creative midfielders and 2 wingers if you're only going to play with.
I agree, but neither of them are good enough to be that man. And we don't have.
Has the promise. Mason's good kid, love him, success story, but I don't drink that Kool-Aid that he is the future. I think Bentaleb does have it. Just needs a little kind of.
Simon, I think Danny Rose has taught us that one of them, or maybe even both of them, could be. They're absolutely not now, and but we don't have other creative midfield options.
What's Dembele done to piss Pochettino off?
Well, I asked that last week, and I just don't know.
What's Lamella done? They put that's the thing. That's the thing. Pony Townsend.
That's the thing that I just cannot figure out. I cannot figure out.
I love Chadley, but Jesus Christ, man!
You've seen enough. I mean, I can't figure out the. I cannot figure. Think of this. I mean, what is your downside to putting Lamella? I've mentioned this last couple of weeks. What's been your downside to put him in with this crap run of fixtures that we've had? And what's your downside to putting him in going forward? I mean, you have the upside of developing a player, and you also have the upside of showing a player and maybe marketing him. I mean, we talked about, well, why was Paulinho in last week? Was he just there, really with a for sale sign over his head? Mm-hmm. I just cannot figure out why we are not playing not only a player that I think is pretty talented, but a player that we've spent a lot of money on, and then also a player that the irony is one of his strong suits, or at least one of the things that he has shown to be quite good at, is the defensive element to his game. I cannot figure that out. And as you know, look, I keep on saying I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth. I mean, give it time. Let's see how this goes. But in the back of my mind, I'm worried by these things because I'm an untrained eye, and if I can see this, it doesn't make any sense to me. What's your downside for playing him right now, relative to what Townsend has done or hasn't done, and what Chadley hasn't done?
And playing a 4-1-4-1, we've talked about why Lamella's not playing. What about Stambouli? I think if there's one player on the squad right now that you could put in a 4-1-4-1 formation and be that center holding midfielder with his footwork, with his skill on the ball and his distribution, I think Stambouli is that guy. Plus, he's the best defender of the lot. He really is. Yeah,
he's just not fast.
Well, no, but do you have to be? If you're playing a 4-1-4-1, you're not going to blow all the wingers completely upfield. You're going to have four midfielders that can do that, so you're not going to need to backtrack as much. And if you take an Eriksson and a Lamela and you put them in the middle and flank them with Townsend and Chadley, or pick your poison, or put Lamela out on the right, sit Townsend, let him be the impact sub and play Dembele in the middle, along with Eriksson, who's been poor. I've been getting just slated on Twitter.
If you're right, you are spot on.
He has been poor all season long. Lamela sucks. He gets knocked off the ball every time he touches it. Let me tell you what: if the wind blows more than 5 miles an hour, Christian Eriksen's losing the ball. He got knocked off the ball 5 times. I counted. It's all I look for now when he's got the ball in possession. And I think he's rushing his shots just a little bit. Look, he's hit the woodwork twice. I'd love to see him score. He's also flown the crossbar from 12 yards out 2 weeks in a row.
Our friend Mark Ashhead today is having a nice convo with him. He DMs me as he DMs me, says in his messaging, "Mate, you're talking nonsense," because all I was saying is that I'm just having a debate about whether Eriksson should be sold. I'm certainly not insinuating that he should be, but I'm just sort of having a philosophical discussion with myself about that, because to your point, he has not been effective. I don't know that he's been quite as bad as you say. I'm not claiming that he hasn't done the things that you're saying he's done. But Mark brought up a great point, and he made the comment to me. He said, "Look, he's just simply, whether you want to admit it or not, he's the kind of player that can make other players." Well, what did he say? He was just basically talking to the effect that he needs something around him to bring out his specialness, if you will. He's not the kind of player that brings up other players. And I just thought it was an interesting comment, and it's probably true, because he hasn't rallied the troops and guys haven't got better around him, and frankly he's played down to the cast of characters around him. He hasn't made anybody better.
That's a good point.
Well, I thought that was interesting.
Has his play deteriorated as the rest of the squad has become mediocre?
It has.
It's not like he became pony overnight. He was our saviour all the way up to the League Cup semi-final with his heroics in that match. But he's done nothing since. And is that his fault? Is that the fault of the rest of the squad? Because he's got talent, and I think we all agree we love Eriksson. He was arguably our player of the season last season. He started off this season doing well, and there was a toss-up whether it was Hugo based on how he had to single-handedly keep us in games, or Eriksson with his heroics. Now, obviously, we've got a new saviour in Sir Harry, but those are the only 3 players over the course of the season that we can honestly. Granted, now Danny is showing a lot of potential that we never thought was possible a year ago. Even Davis has become a forgotten man.
Well, but that's been a function of Rose playing so well. And let me take
and obviously being out of the cup competitions.
Yeah, but I want to take a quick step back, because the main reason why I started thinking philosophically about Eriksson was because I thought about it even more when Mark made that comment, because Pritchard has clearly been the opposite of that. He's had a wonderful year, but he has made those around him better. And he has been extremely effective. Now, granted, it's Brentford, it's not the Premier League, but he has developed as a player in that number 10 role. And so I think my sense is is that he's going to come back and play a role in this thing, and maybe the most effective lineup for us next year, if you can find that guy in the middle to play that 4-1-4-1. I don't know. I thought that.
When you look at Eriksson and you see what he's done and what he hasn't done lately, especially, it's 12 games now without a goal. The last time that he had a very good run of form is when he's on the field with other very creative players. It seemed, Townsend's quite creative, but his creativity is very predictable. His creativity is bombing upfield, do 3 or 4 step-overs, cut inside, and either shoot or pass the ball. That's it. That's all he's really doing. He doesn't really go outside of his safety zone or safety net, so to speak. Chadley is a completely different animal. He's got a little bit of an eye for a goal. He's not overly creative, and he's much more of a direct player. He's almost a striker that plays winger, type of player. When Eriksson was at his best, I felt, is when Lamela was on his right, and those two could interchange, swapping back and forth depending on what the play was calling for, and having that extra creative person drawing defenders towards him to pull some of this off of Eriksson, to let him create in the middle. It is not rocket science what these guys are doing to us right now. Look at the Leicester game. Look at Burnley. Look at Aston Villa. All these teams are playing extremely narrow. They're giving us the wings because our crossing is pathetic, and there's no creativity. Yeah. It is known. Shut down Eriksson and shut down Kane. If those two don't score, Tottenham will not win the match.
Yeah, we're horribly ineffective against a diamond.
Right, and I think that giving either swapping, moving the formation a little bit and playing Lamela next to Eriksson, or even wide again, and put Dembele next to him, to maybe service and hold the ball up and keep those offensive moves going, is something we need. But look, Lamela's going to lose the ball. Eriksson's been losing the ball for 3 months. This is not shocking. This is what's happening. And I think adding a bit of flair and creativity back into the lineup, I love the kid. But I think that the squad is screaming for it. I love the fact that Yedlin got on this week. The game was screaming for some pace. We didn't really get to see it. Yeah, he almost had a red card. It's his first action in the English Premier League, the best league in the world. But the squad is deprived of something, and that something is what made Tottenham great all throughout the great history that this club has. And it's
two things: it's no leader and no flair.
That's it.
All right, so let's kind of mix things up.
Yep.
We're going down
Ooh, I smell a book review. I smell a book review.
No, I'm going to save the book review.
Too soon.
I've given some hints, and I'd be interested in anyone's take on the chapter on Paul, the hooligan. I'm not a hooligan. I've got some debate on that, so we can talk about it next week if anyone wants to tweet to us at Dallas Spurs or at Hotspur America on that. I'd be more than interested. But this is a good segue. You talked about Yedlin. He's been called up to the U.S. national team this week. They're playing Mexico and San Antonio. Is that right? Midweek? Or is it next week? Is it April 15th?
Yes, it is.
Yes,
it's
April 15th. So a couple of days' time. So we know, he's probably out for the Newcastle trip. So let's talk about the Newcastle trip. Newcastle, one off dead last on the form table. They're on a horrible run. Can't score. Was it Sissoko got sent off within 8 minutes? He'll be not available for Sunday. They didn't do anything today to give Liverpool a fight, even though it was only 2-0, which is probably good for them. But what are your thoughts for the match on the weekend? Here we are, spinning our wheels, getting nowhere fast. They're in the same boat. Has it got 0-0 written all over it? Or is it the tune squeaking away with a 1-0 victory because we're still completely horrendous?
They're bad. They really are bad right now. They've got the sour taste of losing to Sunderland on that Jermaine Defoe wonder goal with his left foot.
Who got spanked 4-1 by Palace.
Exactly.
the week after.
Exactly.
By an old Newcastle manager.
Yeah, and look, Swansea,